Hey there, it's me Red Knight and welcome back to my channel for a Heyday video. Now for the valley that's starting very soon, we are heading off to Romania and it's a bit of a vampiristic valley. Now what kind of valley is it? It's going to be a chicken valley. Now it's not my favourite one, but I still like the rewards I can get. And as you drive around the valley, you're going to be looking for specific chickens. Now those chickens start off a little bit slow, but as the game progresses through the month, the chickens start to appear more and more. Now, not only are you doing the buildings to collect the tokens, but you're looking for those chickens. The chickens allow you to actually spend those tokens within a shop. Now, the shop itself has regular items that you can purchase, but getting the tokens is a little challenging. However, I like to save my tokens because you can either get boosters with those tokens if that's your choice in the game. Now for me, I'm not so keen on the boosters. You can also, if you would like to, get some diamonds. Now I know a lot of players love their diamonds, so it's a great opportunity to get some extra diamonds. It's just driving around, finding chickens and collecting tokens. But for me, the most important part is decoration. So I'm looking forward to getting this vampire goat statue. Now for this video I wanted to do something a little bit different than just focusing on Romania. I wanted to focus on the actual statue itself. So I thought I'd find out about Dracula. So the best actors to play Dracula is going to be the focus here. Now as we know, Dracula is arguably the most iconic horror monster in cinematic history, having been terrifying audiences across the world for over a century, on screen and in books, performances, plays, etc. Now I do like watching Dracula. I like watching many of different movies from different time periods, and I thought I'd like to actually talk about that in today's video. Now when you think about Dracula, you think about the eyes, you think about the skin, you think about the appetite for carnage, you think about the power, the blood, and you think about Bram Stoker. Now Bram Stoker is an interesting person. You know, he actually never visited Romania, never visited to the place where Dracula supposedly had his castle. But his story became very famous indeed. And many actors have actually played Dracula over the years. And I wanted, as I said, to find some of the best ones. Now, is your favourite Gary Oldman? Is it Christopher Lee? Did you like Bella Lugosi? So, how about Nicolas Cage? All of these are very famous. And I'm going to talk about each character, starting from number 11 down to number 1, who is probably the best vampire of all of them. Now, thinking of all of the actors that I'm going to be showing you, please let me know at the end of the video who is your favourite person and your favourite movie that you've actually seen. Right, let's start it off. Now, the first one is Javier Bardem. Now, as you can see from this image here, he's rather scary. And I thought, oh, that looks like a good one. And I realised I actually haven't seen this movie. It's called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So, The Last Voyage of the Demeter is a horrifying adaptation of The Captain's Log, a chapter from Bram Stoker's 1897 Dracula novel. The merchant ship Demeter's fate is set from the start as implied by the film's title. Dracula haunts them during their long voyage from Transylvania to London, and the rest is history. I hope they tasted good. Now, Javier Bardem plays the vampiric legend this time around, and although his identity is completely concealed by his costume, which is actually really cool according to information I saw on the internet, and does a pretty good job of helping nail the tension one would feel in the position of the passengers, this is a much more monstrous Dracula, one that is closer to Nosferatu than the traditional way audiences imagine the character. Demeter was criticised for a few of its elements not coming together fully, but it can be noted that critics agree that it is claustrophobic, anxiety-inducing and scary. Stephen King and Guillermo del Toro have also sung their praises for Demeter. I actually want to watch this now because from the sound of it, this seems like a good movie that I would definitely enjoy. Now, number 2 is Nicolas Cage down there, or should I say number 10 is Nicolas Cage. And I do like Nicolas Cage as an actor. He's an interesting person, and he has starred in a Dracula-based movie. Now, this one was called Renfield, which is slightly little bit different than your normal movie. So Renfield is often a humorous take on the complicated relation between R.M. Renfield and Count Dracula. So not Dracula itself. Renfield is a subservient accomplice to Dracula, ordered to hunt prey for him and do every bidding that is asked of him. When Renfield starts to wonder about his life, okay, things start to change. Now, while Dracula, as we know, is not the main character this time around, Nicolas Cage plays a twisted iteration of the iconic vampire in a performance that is praised as one of the film's high points. Cage is such a great Dracula, one could imagine him playing the role in a serious take on the material as well as the comedic one here. While not perfect by all means, it's still a good movie. Now, the next one down here is Christian Camargo. Oh yeah, that scene looks very sensual and sexy, and I thought this was going to be an interesting one as well. Again, this is one I haven't seen, so I'm going to have to look for this one. This is called Penny Dreadful. The Showtime horror drama series Penny Dreadful features a thrilling mixture of famed 19th century Victorian Gothic fiction characters delving into the bewitching backstories of literacy icons like Dorian Gray, Victor Frankenstein and Count Dracula, and revealing their ominous origins. Now I love all of those, so tell me more. In this spooky show, Christian Camargo brilliantly portrays Bram Stoker's notorious vampire Dracula, with the rendition of the character being the brother of Lucifer and a fallen angel who assumes the identity of a zoologist named Alexander Sweet in order to seduce Vanessa Ives. Good choice. She's gorgeous. Next one down there, number 8, is Richard Roxburgh. Now, I love this movie. I've actually seen it, and I thought it was really, really cool indeed. Now, you are going to recognize this one as being Van Helsing. It's a great one to watch, and I recommend it. Now, Stephen Sommers directed the 2004 action horror film Van Helsing, which stars Hugh Jackman as the legendary titular monster hunter who is sent to Transylvania to defeat Count Dracula as a nefarious villain attempts to use werewolves and Dr. Frankenstein's creature to create a terrifying horde of the undead. Very cool indeed. Now, Richard Roxburgh appears as the diabolical Count Vladislav Dracula, with the character being able to transform into an imposing bat while also harnessing immense power and superhuman capabilities. Van Helsing pays homage to the beloved Universal horror monster films from the 1930s and 40s, and despite less than stellar reviews, went on to be a hit in the box office. Now, number 7 is Frank Langella. Okay, now I've not seen this movie, and again I'm tempted to go and check this one out as well a little bit later because it did sound interesting. Now, this one was called Dracula. So after having been nominated for a Tony Award for his impressive portrayal of the eponymous character in the 1977 Broadway production of Dracula, Frank Langella reprised his role for the 1979 big screen adaptation. Now, that does sound interesting. So he's come from the stage to a movie itself. Now, the esteemed actor was interested in exploring a new side of the iconic movie monster that had yet to be depicted, having once expressed, "I decided he was a highly vulnerable and erotic man, not cool and detached and with no sense of humor or humanity. I didn't want him to appear stilted, stentorian or authoritarian, as he's often presented," which is true actually, very much so. So I wanted to show a man who, while evil, was lonely and could fall in love. So Dracula was a critical and commercial success, winning the Saturn Award for Best Horror Film and reinventing the character with a more emotional and sensual appeal instead of the solely sinister one. Interesting indeed. So changing the character so it's slightly different in people's perceptions. Next one down there is Luke Evans. Now, I loved this movie. It was really, really good, and I absolutely recommend this one as a movie to go watch. This one was called Dracula Untold. The 2014 dark fantasy action flick Dracula Untold decided to shake up the illustrious Bram Stoker tale by creating a compelling origin story for the eponymous character, with Dracula serving as the frightful alter ego of the Romanian ruler Vlad III, the Impaler Dracula. So it was a really good backstory, if I do say so. In the prequel, Luke Evans tackles the famous role of warrior and revered Prince Vlad, who willingly decides to become a vampire in order to protect and keep his family and land safe from foreign forces. And he did do so willingly. However, it did cause problems for his people and his family. But his son was saved, which is the good thing. Evans' Dracula is shown as an admirable hero who was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, straying completely away from the evil monster depicted in Stoker's novel. Time magazine praised his portrayal in their review, writing, Evans carries untold by admirably fulfilling the two essential functions of a period movie hero: to enunciate comic book dialogue with Shakespearean authority, and to look great with one shirt off. Now, number 5 is Clay's Bang. Now, this one I don't know at all. So again, it's another movie that I'm going to have to check out. Now, this one was called Dracula as well. This is a BBC One drama horror television serial, Dracula, and it consists of 3 chilling episodes that centre on the backstory of the infamous Count, chronicling his origins in Eastern Europe and his never-ending battle with the determined Van Helsing and his fierce line of descendants. Clay's Bang is superbly terrifying as Dracula, fully embracing the character's malevolent nature. According to the serial's writers, their vision of the villainous vampire is the hero of his own story, and they set out to honour the original source while also adding thrilling new elements to its backstory. Dracula was well received by critics and a rating hit on both BBC One and Netflix, so I'm going to have to find this one as well. I do like a TV series, so 3 episodes is kind of cool for me. Next one I do know. I've seen this one. This is a Max Schreck one. This is number 4. And I think this is probably one of the best Draculas out there. Now, this one was called Nosferatu. This was the first major theatrical adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it was a 1922 silent German expressionist horror film, Nosferatu, which featured Max Schreck as the hunchback, claw-wielding creature of the night, Count Orlon, who sets his sights on both a new home and the wife of his estate agent in the spooky picture. Now, I love silent movies, I love silent TV shows, so I think you'd enjoy this one as well. So, while regarded as highly influential masterpiece of cinema and one of the best silent movies of all time, Nosferatu was an unauthorized reworking of the Stoker classic that ultimately led to Stoker's heirs suing the filmmakers over the adaptation, resulting in nearly all the copies of the film being burned. No! That's terrible news indeed. It took decades for Nosferatu to be rediscovered. The silent Trump introduced audiences across the world to the chilling Dracula and is a hallowed silver screen staple. Time Out rightly declared, so this is it, ground zero, the birth of the horror cinema. Like I said, it's probably one of the better ones that you could ever watch. Now, the next actor is probably one of my favourite ones of all time, and I think you're going to agree with me, and this is Christopher Lee. As a person in the horror movies, I think he was a wonderful actor, and I enjoyed watching and experiencing his movies and films. So this was a Hammer horror film. Now, Lee's interpretation of the famous vampire helped introduce him as a brooding and central character, with British educationist writer Christopher Frayling stating Dracula introduced fangs, red contact lenses, ready prepared wooden stakes, and in the celebrated credits, blood being splattered from off-screen over the Count's coffin. So awesome visual effects, and many people tend to copy that now when they think of Dracula as well. The esteemed actor was not always pleased with the direction and depiction of Dracula in the films, but his portrayal remains a lauded touchstone in the horror genre. It does. Now we got a few more to go down here, and I think you're going to like these last 2 as well. The next one again is a favourite of mine, so I think you'll like this one a lot. And this character is Gary Oldman. I feel that his version was definitely a good one, and I would recommend watching this as well. Now, this one was called Bram Stoker's Dracula. From the mind of the distinguished director Francis Ford Coppola comes the 1992 gothic horror film Bram Stoker's Dracula, which touts a dazzling cast led by Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder and Anthony Hopkins. I love Anthony Hopkins, he's a cool actor. And this one brings the classic Stoker adaptation to life, and I think you'll like this one. Oldman stills the show as the desolate, terror-inducing Count Dracula, who is determined to once again be reunited with his long-lost love, Mina Murray, while battling against her fiancé, Jonathan Harker, and Abraham Van Helsing. Yeah, that love element's definitely a key part of a lot of the movies, isn't it? And I think that's why a lot of us actually do enjoy it as well, because it makes it more interesting. Now, Coppola was attracted to the sensual elements of the vampire strokes tale and set out to make aspect of the film embody of erotic dream. The revered filmmaker focused heavily on the atmosphere, costumes, and imagery to bring the side of Dracula to life. And if I do say so, the costumes for this one were really cool indeed. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I would recommend watching it as well, for the storyline as well. Now, Oldman once expressed he was compelled to portray the iconic movie monster because he always wanted to utter the famous line, "I've crossed oceans of time to find you," with the role being worth it solely for that quote. Yes. I've crossed oceans of time to find you. Now, let's come down to number one. The best actor, Bella Lugosi. Oh yeah. Now, who is Bella Lugosi, I wonder? What is he famous for? Well, let's find out. Now, the legendary Bela Lugosi helped establish Count Dracula as a cultural icon when he donned the notorious black cape and fangs in the 1931 supernatural horror classic Dracula, which follows a blood-sucking creature as he travels to England in search of new victims to terrorize and feed one. Well, us English people are quite tasty, so I can understand that. Right, now Lugosi had first portrayed the character in the Broadway production of the novel, and despite a successful run, he was not the first choice to appear in the big screen adaptation. What? They're crazy for that. The silver screen star lobbied hard to nab the role, taking a meager salary of $500 just to headline the beloved flick. Wow, that was definitely a big cane salary. Now, Lugosi became the ultimate Dracula with his menacing and sinister rendition of the antagonist, cementing his status as a horror film great. Even though Dracula helped make the actor a household name, he would be plagued by typecasting and was hesitant to reprise the role, having once said, "No, not at any price." So once you've done it and you've created it, never go back and redo it again because you've established. When I'm through with this picture, I hope to never hear a Dracula again. I cannot stand it. I do not intend that. It shall possess me. Which is a problem sometimes I find with actors. They get stuck in a role and it's very hard to get out of it. So I could totally understand why Bela Lugosi said this. Right, now if you want to read more about Dracula, and there's a lot more posts on this actual website, go and have a look at it. I found it to be very interesting indeed. There are other links to other Dracula based articles, and I think you would enjoy checking them out. Now, this is Romania. That's where we're heading off to. If you would like to visit Romania, visit Dracula's Castle more, please do so. There's a lot of cool information on the internet, but this time I went with movie stars, and I hope you enjoyed that. Please do check out the movies and give me your feedback. Now, also subscribe to my channel, use the code REDNIGHT before you make any purchases, and I will see you when I get back from England. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and much love as usual. And keep your windows closed because I could come and bite your neck tonight. Bye now.